Oh, it's Tuesday, and you know the move. It's another episode of the 2-2 Podcast. Listen, I'm so glad you could join me today. Today's episode is going to be a really great one. I know I say that a lot about these episodes, but I believe today is an episode that's really going to help a lot of people. We are continuing the series, Finish Strong, Strong Finish, and we are continuing the sub-series, Making Room. So with that being said, grab your friends, grab your family, grab your co-workers, grab your people you don't like. Also, don't forget to grab your notebook, iPad, laptop, and whatever device or thing you need to take notes. It's going to be a good one. See you in a minute. Have you ever wanted to record a podcast but didn't know the way? Well, I've got good news. Let me tell you about something. It's called Anchor. And Anchor is the easiest way to record a podcast. Let me explain. It's absolutely free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So here's what I need you to do. Please download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. So we are continuing our month-long series entitled Finish Strong, Strong Finish. And we're continuing our sub-series that we've been doing the last couple weeks called Making Room. For those of you that are new to the show, welcome. Hope this first time isn't your last time listening to the show. Hope that there's something that I say that really speaks to a piece of your life that needs spoken to, or a situation in your life that needs spoken to, or spoken about. I hope that I can help somebody. That's the main mission of this. Is not for monetary gain. It's not for clout. It's not for popularity. It's because I want to help a lot of people get through a lot of things that they are currently going through to this day. That they've honestly gone through for years. This was the purpose of this show. And I appreciate everybody who has listened since day one. And I appreciate those people who have started listening today. I even appreciate those people who don't listen to the show at all anymore. I appreciate everybody. But like I said, we're continuing our series, we're continuing the sub-series Making Room. And it's been very well received. I thank you to all of you who have listened to these last few episodes. Like I said last week, this was a series that I have wanted to do for the absolute longest, and I felt that it was appropriate and fitting to do it at the end of the year to really drive home the point that there are a lot of things that we need to leave in this year. And right now is a good time to start cleaning that stuff out. Right now is a great time to do it. No matter where you started, start somewhere. Start taking those pieces of your life that you know aren't the greatest, and keep them in this year. But today, I wanted to talk about something. Some of you who follow me on social media, shameless plug, follow me at AlexJ_Live. That is AlexJ_Live. That is on Instagram and Twitter. And also follow the show page at 22_podcast. That's the word 2, the number 2_podcast. That is on Instagram. And then also on Twitter, follow me at 22podcast. That's all ran together though. No underscore. So If you follow me on any of those social media platforms, you might have seen me give you a few directions. One was to share, to listen and share this podcast. Another one was and another one was what we're talking about today. Think about these two words: unintentional rentals. Unintentional rentals. And for those of you who I've told privately and kind of given a brief synopsis, a brief preview, if you will, of what today's episode is all about, those of you get it. That you guys, it didn't take long. But what are unintentional rentals? Okay, so you ever? I'll break it down, I'll break it down in a couple of ways. Have you ever borrowed something when you were a kid? Have you ever borrowed something from somebody? Now, this is not the unintentional rental part, but this will fit. Have you ever borrowed something from somebody when you were a kid? Maybe a video game, and maybe some stuffed animal, maybe an action figure, maybe some basketball, maybe it's some type of something. And you've had it so long that your parents become worried, a little more worried about you returning it than you are. Excuse me, a little congested here. And your parents told you this. I know my mom, my grandma told me this. Give that person their stuff back. Give that person their stuff back now. You've had that thing for too long. Give it back. Yeah, they would add the thing up. They would add a piece of it. They might be worried about it. This, that, and the third. Give that person their stuff back. Yeah. And how does this connect with unintentional rentals? Well, here we go. When we get connected with people in some way, shape, or form, whether that's through relationship or that's through a deeper level of friendship, oftentimes we rent what they're going through. You've heard me talk about generational curses. You've heard me talk about access. You've heard me talk about, in some cases, the transference of spirits, different acting, transference of different behaviors and mindsets. You've really heard me talk about soul ties and what they do to us. You've heard me talk about this very often, that you have to be careful who you connect your soul with. You have to be careful who you lay around with. You have to be careful who you kiss. You have to be careful who you just have to be careful who you're around at all times. Because what is on others can get on you. What is on others can get on you. And today I wanted to talk about the things that we unintentionally rent. We don't know that we're renting them. And oftentimes we don't find out that we've rented somebody's something. Whether it's their bad attitude, whether it's their bad actions, their bad mindset. We don't realize we've rented it until it becomes us completely. To a point that oftentimes, if we're not strong enough to get out of that situation, or we will just think it's just who we are. When in a lot of cases, it's not who we are. It's who we're connected to. who we're connected to, and that we unintentionally, and what is connected to them that we unintentionally rent. And so we have to be careful in every way, shape, and form to guard ourselves. Not to the point that, you just don't, I'm not going to date anybody. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to be anybody's friend. I'm guarding myself because, I'm afraid that you're going to. And I've had this, let me be transparent. And I should have taken these as red flags ahead of time. I've had women tell me this, that they didn't want to date me because I was a quote-unquote good guy. Shameless plug. My buddy and I, Kayla, got the 411, did an episode about good guys and good girls. I encourage you to listen to that. That is on my podcast, but also that is on this podcast archive. I encourage you to listen to that. It was a really great episode. Shout out to Kayla. And Kayla got the 411. Follow her on her Instagram and her Twitter. We did an episode on good guys and good girls, and there was something that I mentioned that I've had women tell me that I was a good guy, and they were afraid to date me because they were afraid they were going to corrupt me. And sometimes you have to take that as a red flag, because maybe it's that reminder, that's a sign that maybe what you're trying to get connected to, you so desperately want to get connected to, is not something that you want to be connected with. That it's going to do more harm than good. So you have to pay attention to those red flags that are often presented to us. And sometimes we find ourselves oblivious to the red flags because we're looking at something within the physical realm of things, that we become blind and oblivious to the fact that internally, that person that we want to connect ourselves to is terrible. And why I say that, don't look at nobody in the room that you connected to. Don't look at your husband. Don't look at your wife. Don't look at your boyfriend. Don't look at your girlfriend. Don't look at your family members. Don't look at that friend that just gets on your nerves. That friend that just don't want to do right. Don't look over at them and go, mm-hmm. Don't side-eye nobody when I said that. I hope you didn't. I pray. And we have to make sure that we are guarded, our hearts are guarded, our minds are guarded, our souls are guarded, to the point that we understand the red flags, that we see the red flags, that we understand that that their bad doesn't outweigh that the bad outweighs the good in a lot of people. Not that you're being judgmental. There's situations where red flags are just prevalent, and just they're just there, and you have to pay attention to those red flags, because if you don't, those red flags become green lights if you're not strong. How many people, show of hands, this is totally a catchphrase, and I'm definitely going to put this on the t-shirt, show of hands, I know you can't see me and I can't see you, but show of hands, how many people have thought that how many people's red flags became green lights to you? How many people have ever dealt with that, where you weren't strong enough, you wanted to be loved, you wanted to be loved, you wanted to be accepted, you wanted to be connected, you wanted to be close, you wanted to be around, you wanted somebody around you. How many times, show of hands, have somebody else's red flags became green lights? Oh, they're such and such, they're petty, they're this, they're that. It's alright. We can't allow the physical to blind us from the internal. We can't. They can look good. They can look great. They can be the baddest in the planet. They can do all the things that you want, that you desire. But if their soul is crappy, and their mindset is crappy, and their attitude is horrible, there's an old saying that I used to say a long time ago, that beauty without substance is ugly. They can look great all they want. And there are some people that are quote unquote not attractive, whose souls and minds are pretty. They're great. They're gorgeous. They're amazing. And there are some people that look great, that soul-wise are unattractive. And again, don't be going through your Instagram and don't look at your ex. Don't send your ex a message talking about you need to listen to this episode because this episode is about you. Don't do that. Don't be petty today. But we have to pay attention to the red flags. We have to pay attention to the signs. We have to take the time to go. You have to take the time to really take inventory. Not only of other people, but ourselves. You have to take that inventory. And then we have to ask ourselves, why am I attracting these types of people? Is it because, and here it is it because I unintentionally rented something from someone in my past that became me because I didn't take the time to remove it from my life? Or I didn't see the signs when I was with them because they did everything for me. They bought me stuff. They took me on trips. Lord, I almost said flued out. Oh man, I just said it then. But they took me on trips. They bought me things. They loved me this way. But they didn't. Because of that, you didn't pay attention to all the signs. So how did I become who I became? And why do I keep attracting these types of people? That's where inspection really comes into play. Touch somebody and say inspection. Slap them again and say I'm doing inspection. We have to do internal inspection of ourselves to see what we have become and why we attract who we attract. Internal inventory and inspection. The 3 I's. Internal inventory and inspection. We have to do that. And if you see something that you have connected, you see something that is abnormal, and when I say abnormal, which I'm saying that is unbecoming of you, this is the time to make room and remove it. Because like I've said in previous episodes, you are who you attract. That is true. It's not just cliche. It's not a cliche phrase. It is it's very much true. It's very much true. We are who you attract. And we become who we attract in a lot of cases because we intentionally rent things from people and don't realize that we do. It's what we do. So what do we unintentionally rent? I'm glad you asked, even if you didn't. I'm still gonna tell you anyway. So what do we unintentionally rent? We unintentionally rent people's bad attitudes. Have you ever been a positive person connected with a negative person, didn't realize, and then just became a negative person? We oftentimes connect to that because we are desperate to be around people. So we connect with people's bad attitudes. Because we connect with people's bad attitudes, that becomes us. We connect with, we unintentionally rent people's bad mindsets. Their bad habits. For some of you, this wasn't you before. You weren't like this before. Your attitude wasn't bad before this. And this is not an indictment on everybody. This is just a situation where you just have to understand and you have to say to yourself, I wasn't like this before. I don't know what, I don't know who it was. I don't know what it was. But God, I don't want this. This isn't me. I don't know how I became this. In some cases, it takes us a long time to realize how we became the way that we became. It takes us a long time. But if we don't take the time and make the time to look at what's going on, we just think it's in our character. It's in our DNA. We think that. We think this is just who we are. And it's not. And with unintentionally renting other people, unintentionally renting people's bad habits, bad mindsets, bad and everything, negative spirits. We find ourselves with a bit of an identity crisis issue. It's an identity crisis issue, whether you think so or not. How is it an identity crisis issue? Because we have overtaken something that ain't us. That wasn't us before. And wasn't and shouldn't be us in the future. We do more unintentional renting of the negative than we do the positive. We should be, not only renting, but like renting to own. With that, we should be owning the positive. I mean, we should be owning positive mindsets and not renting the negative ones. We end up owning these negative mindsets and these negative these bad work ethics, and we end up owning that when it should be it shouldn't even be a thing that we should look at or should be renting. But it's an identity crisis issue when we rent other people's things and we become what we've rented. And if you know anything about renting anything, You know, there's late fees. There's a price you have to pay for not giving it back, not releasing it. It's a price you have to pay. And if you don't give that person their stuff back in 2020, near the end of this year, we're wrapping this up. We only got a few weeks left. 2 and some change. Next week is Christmas. The week after that is New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. If you do not take the time to give them their stuff back, there it is. Give that person their stuff back today. It's a season of giving. Give that person their stuff back. Whatever you have been connected to in 2020, in 2019, in 2018, 2017, go back even further. Whatever you have been connected to that is still connected to you, today is the day to get disconnected from that. Because some of us are paying the price of a rental from years and years ago. Some of us are still paying that price and don't realize we're still paying that price, and we wonder why we, in some cases, we become triggered and our attitudes are bad. And that's because we did not realize and did not understand that there were some things in our lives that we needed to disconnect from and give back to the people who gave it to that we rented it from. Give it back. Because I need my joy back in 2021. I need my peace back in 2021. I need everything back. I don't want this negative mindset. I don't want this bad attitude. I don't want these bad habits. I don't want these bad addictions. I don't want it. I didn't have it before, and I don't need it now. We have to watch in this new year what we connect ourselves to. Because if we do not take the time to inspect what we are connected to, we'll forever be mired in our unintentional rentals. Inspection, both internally and externally. Inventory, internally and externally. We have to do that, and we have to be willing to remove in order to grow. If you do not prune the branches of something, it will not grow. If you do not take the time to look at those dead places in your life, those stagnant places in your life, those negative places in your life, and you do not prune those, and you do not take those boxes out of your life's garage, then you will never have room. And you will always be situating things and moving things around in order to make room. So I ask of you, going into the rest of this week, going into midweek, I want you to think about what in your life have you unintentionally rented? What are some things that weren't you before that have become you now? What are those things that you rented that you now own, that you have to get rid of? Are you inspecting what you expect? Are you taking inventory internally, externally? And externally, what are you doing? What are you unintentionally renting that should not be there in your life? I want you to ask those questions of yourself. I want you to have a discussion about those questions amongst your friends and your family. What is it that wants me to stay connected to a person or a thing or an action or a place that brought me so much grief? What is it that causes me to unintentionally rent those things and unintentionally rent things that should not be there? Ask the question of yourself going into midweek. And stop unintentionally renting other people's things. Give them their stuff right back. Today and forever. Hey, listen, thank you for joining the show today. Don't forget to follow the show page and my personal page. The show page is 22_podcast. That is 22_podcast on Instagram. And my personal page at AlexJ_live. That is AlexJ_live. Please don't forget the 22 podcast has merch. That's on 22apparel.threadless.com. That is 22apparel.threadless.com. See you soon.